Okay, in this lecture, we will learn how to get rid of this ugly port actually. So which means it will work only on this IP address. And better of that, we will learn how to put a URL for this or a domain for this Jenkins. And don't worry, it will be for free because actually we are using the private hosted zone on AWS. And this is something very powerful and it is very handy. All right, now let's start. Now the first thing for the ugly port, which is this one, because actually we are running the code here. This is the Jenkins server, because if you see netstat -ntlp, you can see that it is running from anywhere on the port 8080, okay? And forget about the 22 or 53, okay? All right, for that, actually, I'm using Nginx as proxy because Nginx is very fast. So Nginx will work as a proxy. So any request come for this server, it will come to the port 80. And from port 80, from Nginx, I will see the traffic to the port 8080 locally here. Okay? All right, so far so good. Now you may ask me, but actually I can change from the configuration file on Jenkins from port 80, the default port, to port 80. Or from port 8080 to port 80. Right? I know you mean that the etc default Jenkins, right? Which means that this port, which is the HTTP port 8080. Well, actually, yeah, you can. But in Linux, you know that any port below the 1024 will be reserved for the system, which means we need a sudo permission for it. And you know that Jenkins is not very secure. Actually, if I put this as 80 like this, so if I save it, and actually if I restart the Jenkins service restart, okay, and if I type netstat -ntlp, you can see that the port 8080 or port 80 is not, they are not existed. And why is that? Or the port 80 actually is not existed, the one we changed. Why is that? Because it is below the 1024 and this is something reserved for the system. Only the root can do that. So we need to grant Jenkins root permission. And this is not recommended at all, actually, to give Jenkins root permission. So, and the best solution for this actually is using Nginx to work as a proxy between Jenkins and the outer traffic, okay? Or the incoming traffic. And don't worry about Nginx. Actually, it is very fast, okay? So you will not notice any slowness or whatever, okay? So again, let's return everything as is. So this must be port 8080. And let's restart the service. And let's check the netstat. Now you can see that it has been returned. All right, so far so good. So sudo apt install Nginx, as simple as that. All right, yes. All right, now let's head out to the etc Nginx. From here, you can see we have all the configuration to the sites enabled. All right, now you can see that this is the default page. Well, actually, we can modify it directly, or you can just name it, rename it to anything you want. In my case, I will not do anything for that, so it's okay. Let's delete these. The var, the index, yeah. Let's leave the server name. So I'm listening on port 80. And here I'm listening on port 80 as well, the default server. The server name is like this. So it is from any location. Okay. And let's delete all of that. Don't worry about them. We don't need them. Yeah, we don't need anything of that. All right. Now here inside the location. And from here, I want to put the proxy password. Okay. Well, actually, how did I know about this? You can just read the official documentation. This is their official documentation. There are a lot of options, a lot of examples, a lot of things. Actually, you can see that we have a lot of things. And we have the example. As you can see, the location is anything. Proxy pass, set the header for something. What the header does. Just copy and paste like this. So you can see that if it is location, whatever. So which means that any location, whatever index we have, anything, so it will proxy pass to the local host on port 8080. Let's edit that to 8080, which is the one that we run Jenkins on it. And you can see that the proxy set is the host and the host like this, and this is for the proxy header and as well. So will not go wrong or whatever. Okay, so far so good. Yeah, actually I forget to put this. Yeah, the thing is I need to copy and paste that because I forget to run it as a root. So sudo vim default. Actually, a quick trick for Vim, by typing GG, it will go to the up of the screen. As you can see, this is the cursor is here, up. Now D, Shift G, it will remove everything, okay? So GG, it will go to the up of the screen, the cursor will go up, and D, Shift with G, which means D with G capital, okay? So D, Shift G, or D, G capital. All right, now press I, and let's copy and paste what we want, which is the server block, inside it the location block, and the proxy path to the port 8080. Now let's save that. Now sudo system ttl. First of all, let's see the nginx status. Yeah, as you can see, it is up and active. Now let's restart it. Okay, so sometimes the restart doesn't work actually because we have processes running in the background or whatever. You can just stop it or forcefully restart it or forcefully stop it, then start it again. So let's start that. Now let's check the status. It is up and running. Yeah, you can see that here. It is up and running. And by default, it is enabled from the vendor, which means by default, it will be enabled. And currently, it is enabled, which means on boot up, it will be enabled. Okay. So the difference between enabled and the vendor present enabled actually is this will come from the company itself. So it will by default, it will be enabled. Okay. But the enabled here, that's something we issued by using the enable systemctl enable or disable command. All right. Anyway, now if I hit down, now if I go to the Jenkins here, so if I click here, you can see that it is still working. Yeah, you can see Jenkins. All right. Now you can see that it is still working on port 8080, and you may ask me, but why is that? Because if I type dash and tlp in its stat, it's working from 0, which means from anywhere. All right. But we need to go to the port 80 now. We will get rid of that later on. For now, just if I type here, yeah, it works 100%. You can see that we don't have this ugly port anymore. So if I click on manage Jenkins, if I go to anywhere, you can see that we don't have any problems at all. All right. So let's go in the Jenkins. Yeah, we don't have any port at all. All right. Okay. Now you may ask me, but I don't need the port 8080 anymore. Okay. Well, actually, you have two solutions. The first one is going to the security group, edit the inbound, and get rid of this custom TCP, which is the port 8080. This is the first thing, and actually the absolute solution. So it will work with either way. So if I type here, you can see that I'm still connecting. Yeah, here you can see I'm still connecting. I cannot do anything. So it will not work at all. All right. Yeah, as you can see, it's still spinning. So no connection at all. But if I remove that and put port 80 or which is the default one, you can see that it is working 100%. Yeah, by the way, you can have an SSL certificate, but for now, because it is a private, it will be a self-signed certificate, which means most of the cases it will not be trusted from Chrome. Okay, but anyway, it's better than nothing, right? Now the other solution actually for this is actually to go to the etc default Jenkins, and from here you can see that we have the listening address, and the default one is from anywhere. All right, so you can see that we can enable that and change the HTTP host to something else. So you can see that we can put the HTTP host here, copy and paste it here, and put the local host or 127.0.0.1. Okay, but actually if you turned off the security group or you removed the inbound, nobody can access it. So we are secure. All right, now still we have an IP address. When this is something not elegant 100%, how to do something more elegant? All right, I got you. Actually, this is something very exciting. So from the AWS, this is something the AWS provide. So if you from here, from the services, if you go to the route 53 and from here to the hosted zones, actually you don't need to go to the domains or to register domains, because this is something private after all. And this is something very powerful in AWS in the Route 53. So you don't need to purchase any domain at all. And from the hosted zones here, yeah, by the way, I have my mamquick.com website and I have it as a public. But this time, let's create a hosted zone so you can see from the Route 53, from the hosted zones. You don't need to go to any domains actually. You don't need to purchase anything. So from the hosted zones, create hosted zones and name it wherever you want. So for example, our main domain is something called DevSecOps.com. Well, actually, maybe there are other domains like this, but it is private, so it doesn't matter. So DevSecOps.com or DevSecOpsCourse.com. I know it is very long name, but anyway, here you can put the description. And these are the most important thing, which is it a public? And no, it is not a public actually. This is something private. Okay, so DevSecOpsCourse.com, and it is a private. Now here, choose the region, and my region, if you notice, it is US East 1, North Virginia, this one. And here, from here, choose the VPC, and the VPC is the DevSecOps VPC. Okay, so please don't get confused between the name of the VPC and the name of the domain here on the hosted zones. Yeah, I know this is DevSecOps VPC, but this is DevSecOps course. Okay, so this is something different. All right, now let's create the hosted zones. As simple as that. You can see that we have the hosted zones up and running. All right, now you may ask me, but we created the hosted zones, we created the domain we know we need, which is the DevSecOps course, the very long string here. But now how to use it? From here, create a record. As simple as that. And in my case, it will be simple routing. Next, I will define a simple routing, and I will name it Jenkins.DevSecOpsCourse.com. All right. So I know it's very long string actually, but anyway, so Jenkins.whatever.com, and we needed to route to a specific IP address. Actually, there are a lot of things here, but I needed to have a private IP address. Okay. And actually, I want to put the private address of the Jenkins server, and I got it from here. You can see that I got it from here. So yeah, by removing the HTTP, by the way, just put IP address, the IPv4, this one, which is 10.10.0.202. Okay, now it is a record. The TTL is 300 seconds, which means 5 minutes. Now let's define it. Let's create the record. Okay, so far so good. All right, it may take some time actually to propagate or to work correctly. So let's give it 5 minutes just to make sure that everything is working correctly. All right, now let's refresh. You can see that it still cannot be reached. All right, well, actually, I intended to not remove that. So you can see in practice that shit happens. Okay, sorry for the language. Anyway, so from here, you need to go to the VPC, and we need to do this extra step because we are using a hosted zone, a private hosted zone on the VPC level, right? So from here on the VPC that we created, you can see that we have a DNS host name, and by default it is not enabled. So you need to enable it, and let's save now. Okay, now if this has been saved, now let's refresh and see. You can see that we still cannot be reached. All right, you can see that we have the same problem. All right, well, actually we forgot something. So if I go to the private tunnel here, to the servers exactly, actually while I'm connecting to the VPN, you can see that in the DevOps server, DevSecOps server that we created, the DNS server here is the public DNS server for Google, as you can see. So that's why it will not work internally. Now, actually, this VPN is something for the local network, the private instances. So I need to provide the DNS server IP address here. And this IP address must be inside the private subnet or the private network. Well, actually, we don't have any DNS server. But anyway, we will put the 10.10.0.2, okay? And this is just a name or the IP address within the private network, as you can see, which is the private. All right. And you can see that we have the DNS search domain here. You can provide it, but it is optional as well. So you need to provide DevSecOpsCourse.com, and you can see that everything will work fine. But you can see, if you notice, if I can click save, your server must be offline to modify these. So if I go ahead and click on stop, I will not be able to connect to the VPN server again because I'm using the private IP address after all, okay? But don't worry, I got you. So let's stop it. And if I restart that, you can see that I cannot open the Brighton VPN server at all because I'm using the private IP address. All right. Now, as simple as that, just go ahead to the EC2. So from here, let's go to the EC2. Yeah, actually, don't forget to disconnect from the VPN. So you can see that you cannot connect to the internet at all. Yeah. Now go to the running instances, to the Jenkins, to the VPN server, I mean. Now, this time we want to take the public IP address. But don't forget, from the security group here, you need to edit the inbound and add the all traffic or the HTTP or HTTPS and put your public IP address. Okay, for now I'm using this. And put your public IP address, all right? Now go ahead and copy and paste it. Now you can see that the servers, they are offline. So go to the servers. Now again, currently I am using the public IP address, okay? So that's why the private I cannot access. As you can see, the connection cannot be connected. So from here, and instead of that, let's put this IP address, which is 10.10.0.2, okay? So which means that arbitrary IP address within the private subnet, okay? Or within the VPC subnet, let's say the VPC CIDR, okay? Now, again, you can put the search domain, but it will work anyway. So save that like that and start the server again. Now I need to connect to the VPN user again. Okay. So if I go ahead to the users, you can see that the user one is online. All right. So from here, if I refresh that, you can see that we returned to the working server. So it worked even on the private IP address. Now the real test will start here. Can I refresh that and it will work? Let's see that. Yeah, so far so good. All right. Now if I type the user I have, which is Jenkins1, all right. Now you can see that we have a domain now, jenkins.devsecopscourse.com, and this actually is free. We didn't pay any dime because this is a private hosted zone after all. All right. So actually, instead of using the hard IP address IPv4, no, we can put an easy URL. Well, actually, in my case here, it is not an easy because I'm using a very long string actually. So putting the IP address is better. But anyway, you can just put any URL you want. It's okay. All right. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next lecture where we will start integrating Jenkins with GitHub. But Jenkins is a private, right? How to integrate it with something public? You may say, but we are using the NAT. No, NAT for the outgoing only, not for the incoming or the ingoing. So how to do that? We will figure it out in the next lecture. All right. Thanks for watching.